to figure out the next Bitcoin action and crypto market action is actually to figure out who is buying gold and why. That's the most simple thing you can actually do from your end. So let's actually figure out who is buying gold and why. Geopolitics and Bitcoin, leverage flash out, and why altcoins were dumping like crazy. What will be happening moving forward? According to me, of course, 3 top theory on Bitcoin. BTC equals energy. Why are we not getting a sideways multi-month action? Explained by Stan as well. Coins popular in Asia to outperform in past halving run. Let's cover all of these topics. We are at a very, very interesting point in time. Interesting point in human history as well. It's so exciting. You cannot even believe how exciting to live through these times. Unfortunately, exciting times often cost lives. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and let's actually start. First of all, we need to figure out who is buying gold and why. We see gold surging up like crazy, and the very, very interesting thing is that before that, for decades, the gold was doing nothing, and right now it's surging up. On this channel, I'm talking a lot about the change in the world order. A very, very exciting event that is happening approximately once in 80 years, 100 years, which not a lot of people, not every generation actually lives through this event. And I believe we are the generation, people who are alive currently, that will be granted this benefit of actually living through this period. At least an attempt, because no one knows what's going to happen. When war in Ukraine started, there was a precedent, unfortunate precedent from my point of view, that showed that West can seize any type of asset if you piss it off. I'm talking about Russian money being seized, sanctioned, and essentially being taken from the owners, which showed to the whole world, to Asian countries, to Middle East countries, to countries in South America as well, that they should be doing something different. They should probably not be relying on dollar and try to do something else from their end. I do think we are living through this part of a very, very interesting scheme with BRICS and all the digital currencies and things like that. I do think that they will try to come up with their own currency quite soon. Or maybe they're just strengthening their own currency currently. We see some countries actually returning back to gold standard as well. And in times where the world is not so stable, where we don't know what's going to happen moving forward, people are actually leaning towards gold as a stable asset through many, many, many centuries and many, many thousands of years as well. However, through all these centuries and through all these thousands of years, people did not have Bitcoin. And some people with money, back in 2014, back in 2015, they already swapped all the gold holdings into Bitcoin. Bitcoin is essentially called digital gold. The price of gold surging up is pretty much an evidence of countries and organizations trying to get away from dollar, trying to actually be a bit more free from that system, because they don't control dollar printer, because they're trying to make an attempt to change how things actually work in this world right now, because most likely they're not satisfied with some things here and there. We had also just seen Hong Kong actually accepting Bitcoin ETF and Ethereum ETF. We do know that there is a new party that came in power in South Korea that would be pushing Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies overall. We do know that Asian volumes in trading cryptocurrencies are at least 8 times larger than Western volumes in comparison. It's very, very interesting when Asia actually supports its people to trade on centralized exchanges. They allow for these companies to actually be. They help them. In US, you cannot trade on a lot of centralized exchanges. And there are a bunch of regulations that people are actually facing with. There was certain news and there are certain evidences that China started to print money quite some time before. in connection to real estate crisis and things like that. Probably the same thing is happening around Asia as well. And I think we are in a certain type of race where you have to understand that countries or regions that actually start to print money first, they would be buying assets of the countries that are holding on printing money. And the only way out is actually for everyone to start printing money as well. Because no one wants a certain part of the world to own certain assets, all right? And if one country is actually backing up on the asset, whilst other country is aggressively acquiring the asset, this means that second country is actually going to be in control. It's probably funny and a bit insane to hear this now, but I think approval or disapproval of Ethereum ETF is actually going to decide whether or not the US will be able to sustain the control, whether or not the empire will actually survive. It's so insane to actually say these things. And I'm speaking specifically about Ethereum ETF in May. It's so interesting. I know it's probably hard to understand the whole picture. Just try to read between the lines. I know that information might be all over the place. I'm not doing this in a very structured way, but just think on these things. The fate of the West might actually base on the sole fact whether or not Ethereum ETF will be approved in May. And I'm obviously not talking about this specific event. I'm talking about the chain of events, different versions of reality that will essentially happen depending on the fact whether or not it's actually going to get approved or not. Just a thought at this stage, just something I'm throwing out there for you to think on. We do also know of some anonymous countries that are acquiring Bitcoin at a crazy pace at this stage. They're not only acquiring it, they are mining Bitcoin as well. Probably these are some countries in the Middle East as well. Probably they don't want to base the future of the country and the future of the people on the dollar solely as well. Just a thought at this stage to think on. Recent flash out, speaking of the leverage, was so healthy. And it's very interesting to understand what exactly was happening, because what type of world we're actually living in. I hear some people selling all of their portfolios with the news of the war, being very stressed about it. It seems like war reality did not touch them yet. A lot of people in a lot of parts of the world live in the war state already. And when you start living in this state, you stop to being afraid of war, essentially. And you don't do any panic actions in case of something unfolding or not unfolding, right? And all this thing with Iran and Israel seems like a scam at this stage, because they just started something, they ended it already, almost like just to drop altcoins markets. A Twitter thread that I actually wanted to share is the fact that most of the altcoins actually got dumped by VCs. The fact that 250 million of supply a day is being emitted on the market on a daily basis on the altcoins is just so crazy. And all these VCs, they were actually holding this supply. And through the initial news about the war, they decided to dump on our heads, on your head and on my head right away. They decided to dump, they decided to liquidate ourselves as well. Do you understand that meme influencers that you are following on Twitter, even they are not selling on you. They are holding the tokens. They are holding the worthless with zero utility meme tokens on them, with VCs dumping for the whole panic wave. And VCs are talking about improvement in technology, changing how the world works, investing into great projects with great utility that will actually sustain through multiple cycles. Your Memecoin influencer you're actually following on Twitter, who is anonymous, that you never seen, that you maybe never heard the voice of, has more integrity than VCs that are just dumping the tokens in panic. Because a lot of VCs are retail, as we see following this dump. They just don't understand what is happening. They're out of this industry. They receive the tokens, first panic, they're just dumping them all. It's so crazy to actually see that. Imagine the state of this market. Imagine who are you actually trading against. It's so actually crazy to understand and see. And this leverage flash out, why it's very, very healthy? Is because all of these VCs, they were sitting with their backs. They were waiting for the tokens to go higher. They were waiting to dump higher. And I do understand currently that they were the ones who were always suppressing the price. All my calls on Arbitrum, I was calling to long Arbitrum at $2, at 1.5 bucks. All these calls didn't play out is because I did not understand what is the amount of tokens that VCs actually have, how short term they actually think, how much they don't believe in this space, and how much of a retail they are. They don't know what the fuck are they doing in the first place. They're just dumping the tokens, not understanding the full picture, not understanding the space. They sold the Arbitrum in panic at 0.9, 0.95, 1 bucks. That's so crazy to see in the first place. Why these people actually have control on these assets in this space? They should have none. They don't deserve any. They don't deserve to make any money in this market, in this specific niche on the market. We had a complete leverage flash out. A bunch of people are in shorts at this stage. I think they will actually get wrecked. It's so healthy for the market structure. It just plays perfectly for us to have a small surge up in Bitcoin dominance moving forward, have BTC surge up, have a small drop in BTC dominance, have our Bitcoin ecosystem all season, and then have a large dump in Bitcoin dominance and move into Ethereum ETF and move into alt season on Ethereum and Ethereum ecosystem and eventual alt season on everything that will be happening. It just plays perfectly at this stage. You can't push something higher. We have a bunch of JITs, even JITs with money, being scared for their funds, being scared for the multipliers, selling their tokens at the first news of some scam thing actually starting out that is already almost over. Imagine what type of bear market PTSD they have. Imagine how much they don't believe in this space. It's so crazy to see them dumping. I can't even believe that. 3 top cycle theory. So I spoke to some very smart guys on the conference today. One of the best discussions I actually had. We discussed previous cycles as well, and essentially the results of the discussion we came up to, I kind of agree with them, because you see all these influencers from previous cycle and max target that they're given is like 120k, right? Like 120k, and I'm absolutely out from the market. Like 150 maybe max. 150k BTC plus, and then I'm essentially out because it's too high and things like that. And the guys shared 3 cycle tops theory, right? Because we do have already a bunch of people in profits with portfolios larger than their portfolios in the previous cycle. A bunch of people who were in the market actively in the bear market, they already admitted that. They said that their portfolios at this stage are actually larger than portfolios even at the peaks of the previous cycle, which means that at certain stage, the higher we go, the higher would be a temptation to actually take profits. What I essentially see happening is us going to 80, 85k, and then these people and people with bear market PTSD essentially having a sell-off, right? 54 is probably a bit bearish. And we will have a sideways action, and then I think we should be surging up to these 120 levels, 150 levels, let's just say 140, right? Because at that stage they would think, oh, well, we're at the top, it's left translated cycle, it's end of the year, it's election, or maybe it's going to be like January, December, let's actually sell. So we'd have liquidity creation, all season here, blah blah blah. And they will actually sell, like right here maybe. Oh, it's under 100k, nothing is happening. I I've did well, I sold, we are going down, bull market is over, nice run, things like that, and then we just surge to 700k from there. 700, 1 million, 1.5 million. Well, 1.5 million is quite crazy at this stage. My goal and my target, as I mentioned, is 700k for this cycle. And I think that this 3-cycle top theory actually makes a lot of sense, because hands should be changed, because so many people actually have so much PTSD from the bear market still, and they will go with their PTSD moving forward. There are so many bears. Bears are screaming currently. They are at the top currently. They are getting views right now because they were bearish for 6+ months, and finally we got a correction. And right now they are kings because they were speaking about the correction for 6 months, and finally we eventually got one. And all these guys taking profits at 150k, they would say, oh, we are at 150k again, it's probably bull trap, it's not real. 200k, nah, I already took my profit, I'm fine. 250, 300k, 400k, here, somewhere here, they would essentially start to get back. And here, they will start to believe again to go to 1.5 million, 2 million, and essentially they will get wrecked. Again, exactly the way they got wrecked in the previous cycle as well. Previous cycle actually was a bit of the weak one because it was mainly driven by geeks on leverage and by guys like Sam Bankman-Friedman and guys like ASBF running exchanges trading against his users. Right now exchanges are actually scared. They don't want to liquidate you, right? But there are still some people wanting to liquidate you following the recent news, right? And what supports this theory is obviously geopolitical situation, because world shows currently that it does not want to have a dollar as a reserve currency. I think we are moving to the attempt of world saying, I don't want to have US dollar as a reserve currency. I think this is actually a reason to approve BTC ETF in the US as well, because like if you own a world reserve currency, why would you actually approve something else? Only if you yourself also want to get certain portion of the asset, because you understand that other players in the world are actually acquiring this asset as well. And in order to not lose control, you need to have certain percentage of this asset as well. And that's why actually I said the things about Ethereum that I said, right? There are some interesting things happening in China as well, as 30% of BTC hash like mining power is in China already. And as you mentioned, China essentially banned BTC to a certain extent. And what's interesting is people are actually implementing Bitcoin miners into the homes, into the apartments. Like they're using some leftover energy that they're using in the house to actually mine, and vice versa as well. And it's very, very interesting because Bitcoin is energy in the first place. And if money is store of value, essentially store of energy, because you can give some of your money to some person and they will do something, they will spend their energy in exchange for getting some money from you. Why money should not be earned with energy? Why money should not be programmed with energy in the first place? It's so smart from Bitcoin point of view to actually be acquired only with injections of energy. There is no other way to get new Bitcoin, only energy. It's a pure store of energy in the first place. Store of energy equals store of value. Fiat funds, fiat money, they're not being created with energy in the first place. Something is valuable when it's hard to create something. When you can just print something, it stops being valuable. And all this chart with 700k Bitcoin, it seems so crazy at this stage. But events that are happening in the world are very, very interesting. Direction of certain countries is very, very clear at this stage. Bitcoin ETF was not approved without a back look on the geopolitical situation as well. We do understand the supply shock coming as well. And Bitcoin is great is because no one kind of knows who actually owns like these initial wallets as well. Therefore, it actually have an illusion of being distributed equally on something that is fair, on something where no one state has a source to print more and others don't, right? You can only either buy it from somewhere else or you can decide to create it, but you will be creating it on even terms with everyone else out there. I would say that many things that I'm talking about you won't agree with. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how the future would eventually unfold, and I think I will actually be right on many, many things that I'm talking about during this video right now. One of the points I also wanted to cover is that why I don't think we are getting this sideways action. I think one of the main reasons why we were getting this like 6 months sideways action after BTC halving is the fact that a lot of mining companies, they stopped being profitable after Bitcoin halving. Therefore, we had this 6 months sideways action where people were selling their mining equipment, other people were buying, they were restructuring companies, maybe some of them were taking profits, they were deciding and thinking and trying to raise some funds and try to figure out for themselves if they would actually continue with the enterprise or sell. So it actually became more and more monopolized, with larger players acquiring smaller players, because for larger players it's essentially a bit more easy to raise funds and be profitable in the first place as well. And right now, due to the fact that we actually reached new all-time highs before the halving, miners are already profitable after halving. That's only one thing of the equation. Listen closely. For miners to actually break even after halving, not currently, even after halving, BTC price should be $60,000. Right now it's 65k. We were as high as 73, 74. I'm sure we will go higher. At the same time, we do have the same use space coming up that we did not have recently. Ordinals, runes, Bitcoin ecosystem assets, Bitcoin DeFi, Bitcoin layer 2s, obviously they're sidechains, EVM based, they don't achieve transactions finality on Bitcoin ecosystem and all the things like that, but still developments in the ecosystem will contribute to the amount of transactions and to commissions surging up, surging higher, therefore making the chain more secure in the first place, and secondly, increasing revenue for the miners at the same time. You don't have to figure out what you're actually going to do this cycle if you are a miner. You don't have to think whether or not I actually want to sell some of the equipment, whether or not I actually need to raise some funding. You want to have something like this. In the first place, it's probably very, very easy for you currently to raise some funding because people are crazy. Like, they understand the potential. They see what is happening in the world. The world is actually trying to introduce a new reserve currency. Let's see how successful it would actually be, right? At the same time, money printing all over the world and in the US, which is still the strongest country in the world. And at the same time, all this space adding additional commissions, additional security, additional transactions, which bring you revenue as a miner. On top of that, we have to understand that the markets are forward-looking. If we will have a sideways chop in the summer and things like that, that means that the market is not bullish on things that will be coming in autumn. All of us, like if you're watching this channel on a daily basis, most likely you're more short-term investor, you're not holding things for many, many months or years, or maybe you're holding some, but you also want to participate in the market on a daily basis as well. But there are a bunch of people who are buying stuff with a long-term view on things, and like 3 months, 6 months, it's just nothing. I don't think that in the summer market will be so short-sighted to actually go into sideways action, not pricing in the election, not pricing in the high chance of money actually starting to be printed in autumn. So many bullish events. ETFs approved in Asia. Not only Bitcoin one, but Ethereum as well. President election, money printing. Anonymous countries actually buying BTC. All this stuff happening. Attempt to change the world order and use BTC as a reserve currency. Try to introduce it as a reserve currency for the whole world, right? I doubt that the market won't be pricing this in. I doubt that we will be entering a multiple months sideways action. I do think that this time is different. To a certain extent. People getting panicked, selling the Arbitrum at 90 cents, like it's the best piece of comedy that you can actually have. It's either they know something, like some background, inside information and the market is going to go to shit. I don't think so. I think that they're just scared. I think they don't know shit about the industry. I think they were selling the Arbitrum at $1, 110, 120, right? And I think like it's so funny, like they are so retail. They are so under emotions. They're so like not understanding shit in this cycle. And if someone is rich, this means that society saw the impact, usually profitable, positive impact that this person made on the society, and society is granting. And society is granting the option to this person to actually distribute more funds because society actually saw that this person distributing funds to make a positive change for society, right? And this is something that is happening on the market because we saw these people not giving a shit about us. We saw these people dumping on us in the previous cycle. We are buying meme coins, something that they are not buying. They are scared. They don't know what is happening. They can't understand why retail is not buying the shit and they can dump. And what they decide to do with the first small shakeout, with the first piece of fake bad news is to dump on each other right away in billions of tokens. It is the best piece of comedy you can actually have. Imagine a VC just shaking all these months like why my shit is not growing, what should I do? I should probably just wait, fake news, bam, sell everything right away, dump on each other. Society declines VCs in an attempt to actually rule over this market. Society declines to VCs. Market declines to the VCs. We have to understand these things. This is why they're dumping. Market is showing more trust. Market wants other people to rule over the market, to lead the market. Market gives more trust into the hands of Twitter meme influencers that are not dumping on the followers. Guys who are showing their wallets publicly with $5 million in something like bread and not dumping on their followers. Society gives more trust in buying bread to these guys than it gives trust to VCs. And VCs, the only thing they have to do after that is just to dump on each other, is to actually perform cannibalism and eat each other and just dump on each other. It's so funny and it's so satisfying. Despite me losing $100,000 on Saturday, it's still so funny and it's still so satisfying to see this type of behavior from VCs. Who's gonna buy that crap after that? Imagine how scared they are. They will capitulate and they will buy into meme coins eventually. Buy our bags if we will actually continue to block them, to not give them trust to rule over us moving forward, because they lost our trust in the last cycle. They showed who they are. They don't have any credibility to rule over us moving forward. Last but not least, because it's all a bunch of talk on the markets, on macro and things like that, you might say you won't have a lot of application. You might say that there is not a lot of alpha in this video. It's very, very interesting to actually talk on these things, and I'm actually curious on your opinion on these things as well, because I can't call myself great expert in these things, although I'm very, very sure that this is what is happening and this is how things are going to happen moving forward as well. We do understand that China and Asia specifically is front running things currently. We do understand that partially this bull market was actually caused by them. We do understand that money printing already started in that region because of the real estate crisis and things like that. We do understand that there is attempt to change the world order from their end as well. so they're interested in printing more money, buying assets and things like that. And we do understand that the West is lagging because West is trying to fight currently and trying to decline some things where they should probably accept things and even front run that side, right? And not try to fight through the way of declining. That's probably not something that will turn out very, very well. And this is why I said things on Ethereum ETF that I actually mentioned for the US, right? I have a tweet from GCR to actually share on this topic, which is a very, very interesting thing. I believe China and Asia in general will fuel the next run. It will take quite some time to melt Western cynicism towards this space, but the East is ascending and yearning to flex. You should be hanging out in WeChat. Many future pumps will be on coins. None of your circle know. I do think that this is something that will be happening. Back in Ordinal's craziness in December and January, I was translating from Chinese websites and Chinese influencers in order to actually buy some things in the first place. There were a bunch of scam in the region as well. They definitely treat scam a bit different. I would say that the perception of scam and being scammed is quite interesting and quite different in the East. But I do think we have to understand what are Eastern coins. What are the tokens that they like, and what are the tokens that they would essentially be pumping moving forward. I will give you one thing that was called the Dogecoin of this cycle, of the Memecoin space. It's RETS on BRC20s. A token that Asian people like very, very much. And you have a lot of derivatives like CATs that essentially ran pretty well recently. RETS might be your safe meme coin pick coming into all this BRC20 and Bitcoin ecosystem craziness as well. I do think we should be seeing some multipliers on it, especially considering the fact it didn't run much yet. With the launch of runes and all this stuff moving forward as well. Even in Bitcoin frogs, they actually already created a separate chat specifically in Chinese. I think we are going to get our Bitcoin ecosystem all season. I think getting into research on things that Chinese actually like, on Asian tokens that they actually like, things that actually come out from this part of the world, is the way to actually make money in this market. I think it's actually going to be a very, very lucrative opportunity because the West is lagging already. It's trying to fight. And this dynamic will probably continue because the trend tends to continue. If we have a trend, it will probably take some time for this trend to reverse. We had so many cases where Western communities became an exit liquidity for Eastern communities. Back in December, in January, many more cases like this will be happening moving forward as well. You have to position yourself early and you have to understand these things as well. Thank you very much for watching this video. I would be providing you with the updates from Dubai for this week on this channel moving forward as well. Like and subscribe again, and I will be seeing you tomorrow. Thank you.